Kia ora, Matapelo here to bring you the latest weather forecast. Well, it was another wet day on Tuesday in the North Island especially. We've got this low pressure system just east of the country and a lot of rain and moisture wrapping in around it. So a wet day down here in the eastern and lower part of the North Island and starting to drift into that top eastern part of the South Island as well. For everybody else, plenty of sunshine, especially down in the South Island. So going forward for the rest of today, we're not quite out of the woods yet. Still a lot of rain activity expected, especially over here in the east. We see those dark blues. We may even see some thunderstorm activity for that eastern part, which we'll chat some more about in a moment. For everybody else, though, up here in the far north, still a windy day out that side, nice and breezy up in Northland and Auckland. That's going to be a theme for the week actually going forward. But down here in the South Island, we are expecting that rain to continue to drift southwards, whereas everybody else here in the west and the lower part remaining fairly fine for the rest of the day. So we spoke about those thunderstorms. We currently have a thunderstorm watch in place that is from noon today until 7 p.m. for the Gisborne and Hawke's Bay region, as well as the eastern part of Taupo. In addition to that, we also have a heavy rain watch. So that is for, again, the Gisborne and Hawke's Bay region, as well as down here in the Wairarapa. That watch in the Wairarapa continues into tomorrow. So for the thunderstorm watch and the heavy rain watches, more information is available on metservice.com. So we've also got some wind going on here in the central part of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and that is for Wellington, the Wairarapa, as well as parts of coastal Marlborough, including the Marlborough Sounds. Those winds are expected to be in the region of about 120 kilometers per hour in exposed places. And those go right for the rest of today into the overnight hours and the first part of tomorrow morning. Again, full details are available on metservice.com. There's also a severe weather video that goes into much more detail with regards to those. In addition to that, we also have road snowfall warnings. We're expecting some possible snowfalls, especially for these elevated parts of the South and the North Island. The roads that are in line for that snow settling on the road overnight into early tomorrow morning include Lewis Pass, Porter's Pass and Arthur's Pass in the South Island. And for the North Island, the desert road could see some of that snow settling on the ground. If you are going to be driving in those overnight hours or early tomorrow morning, do be aware that there could be some snow that has settled on the ground. So looking at those overnight hours, we see that low pressure system that's just been bringing so much weather over the last couple of days. Those strong winds continue to feed into that lower North Island and along here in the eastern South Island as well as all of this rain. We spoke about that heavy rain watch for the Wairarapa that continues for most of tomorrow into the afternoon. Then down here in the South Island, the overnight hours, we do see this rain and showery weather starting to make its presence felt down here, and it will be gradually extending southwards as the day goes on. Elsewhere, we are starting to see a bit of a break in that weather overnight, and down here in the west and the lower South Island still sitting clear in the overnight hours. So looking at the temperatures expected overnight with all of that rain, those showers, that moisture, a lot of cloud, especially over the North Island and these eastern parts of the South Island. We also have some cloud extending down the south and the eastern areas of the South Island. So we see that in the overnight temperatures, these mid to high single digits at this time of year give us a hint that actually there's a lot of cloud. So not looking all the way chilly in the overnight hours. So looking at the rest of tomorrow, there's that low pressure system slowly starting to pull away, but that rain takes a little bit longer to clear. So for the Wairarapa, the eastern part of the South Island and extending down here as well, we are still expecting quite a wet day into Wednesday. That watch goes until 4 p.m. But for everybody else, especially up here in these more inland areas and northern parts, a much clearer, much brighter day expected on Wednesday. but those winds are still expected to be quite breezy for the northern parts. Then here in the South Island, that western part and the lower part still nice and fine for most of tomorrow. Maybe a little bit of high cloud moving through, and the day starts off quite cloudy, and we are expecting that cloud to continue down the eastern portion for much of the day tomorrow. So taking a closer look at that North Island for tomorrow, we spoke about this lower North Island being the wet portion. Up here in the northern parts of the North Island, that cloud does start to clear away, and we should be seeing a bit more brighter weather, more sunny weather compared to the cloudy weather we've had over the last few days. Of course, that wind is still going to be making its way across that top of the North Island. That is going to be a theme for the coming days. So having a look at the temperatures that we're expecting tomorrow, those temperatures are still very average for this time of year, maybe a little bit on the cool side for Wellington, only reaching 10 degrees on Wednesday. Otherwise, everywhere else, these eastern places, 16 degrees and then 17 up there in the north. Then for the South Island, it is going to be quite a cloudy day all the way down this eastern part, maybe even some rain or drizzle down here in the southern regions, wrapping down towards the coastal part of Southland. But for everybody else, we are expecting much clearer weather, maybe just some high-level cloud moving through. A reminder that the early morning hours could see a little bit of snow in those elevated areas, so do keep an eye on those road snowfall watches that we have, warnings that we have in place. Looking at the temperatures, again, a very average temperature day, maybe a little bit on the cooler side, only 9 degrees for Christchurch. We do have an overall southwesterly flow, so that will be keeping temperatures maybe about average, slightly cooler than average for this time of year. So then having a look at the next day, Thursday, we see that low finally moving away from the country, taking all the rain and strong winds away with it. If we look up here, however, the next band of weather does start to make its way onto the top of the North Island. We could even see some possible thunderstorm activity for the likes of Northland and Auckland, but more details about that are available on the website and will be updated. Then down here in the South Island, that rain along the eastern portion also makes its way away, leaving much brighter spells expected on Thursday, maybe 1 or 2 showers still moving through. And then down here, we do expect that next weather system that comes in towards the end of the working week. Well, that's all I have for you for today. Matewa.